Welcome to the Sur-thrival Guide podcast, a short series of daily impactful episodes full of ideas and tips on how to thrive in survival mode during the corona crisis. Every weekday, with the help of a special guest expert, we'll be exploring different tools to add to your Sur-thrival toolkit. So strap yourselves in and get ready to be inspired as we show you the way to Sur-thrival. Welcome everybody to the Sur-thrival Guide podcast. I'm Mark Stabina, former professional rugby player and now leadership consultant with Winning EQ. What's Winning EQ? Well, basically we use emotional intelligence and leadership education to create champions in sports, business and life in general, which is why I've created the Sur-thrival Guide podcast. Now the podcast is based on an ebook that I recently released. Just making sure that you know about it and you have your own copy. There's a link underneath, so you click through, download it, it's free, do it immediately, and you'll see that this podcast is based on that as we take a deeper dive into some of the topics that are discussed in the Sur-thrival Guide ebook. And with the help of an expert, we also give you loads of tips and resources to help you adopt a thrive mindset during this coronavirus crisis. And speaking of which, I have an amazing guest, an expert today. I've decided to talk about immune system health today. It's not something that I really covered extensively in the ebook, but it is so important, especially as there is a lot of information out there. It's so important just in everyday life, let alone during a viral outbreak on a global proportion. So that's why I have this amazing guest with me today. Now, let me build her up a little bit now. I met this particular walking encyclopedia when I would have in-person networking events called Yog Talks, and I would have a theme similar to this, and she blew everyone away with her knowledge about just recovery and immune system health. She can speak into anything. Now, I have a list. Normally, I could just spout out what she does, but it would not do her justice. She is an entrepreneur, a published author, yes, precision wellness specialist, health advocate, food and supplement formulator, hope expert. She has extensive experience in fitness, medicine, physics, keeps going, nutrition, cultural health, genetics, ethnobotany, I don't know what that is either, nutrigenomics, all the words I can't pronounce, biochemistry, neuroscience, emotional intelligence, everything. This woman can do everything, she knows everything, and I don't know how she fits all of this in her day. She's up to so many different projects at the moment. She is on a mission and she will not stop. So it's incredible that she agreed to speak with me today and give you some golden nuggets on immune system health. Please welcome Wendi Michelle. Wendi, how about that intro?
That's amazing. I really enjoyed
I think that's only half of it as well. Like, honestly, it's just I keep saying to you, you give me a new thing that you've achieved on your CV every time I speak with you. I'm like, I didn't know you did that. So welcome. Thank you so much again.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I was so excited to do it.
I'm glad you're excited. Well, as I mentioned, immune system health. How important is that? Before we dive into that, I like to give our viewers and listeners just a typical, like a picture of our guest's typical day while in lockdown. What does a typical day look like for you?
Well, every day is different, although the location is obviously the same.
Yes.
It's actually been the first time I've been able to really create some kind of structure for myself in quite some time, because usually I'm all over the place. So the day usually starts like around 7. That's at least the goal, is to get up around then. And I always like to start with fresh air and like a run or like get, movement of some kind, because one, I won't probably get to it later if I don't knock that out first. But also I find that it's a good time to get the creativity out of the way. Like that's like a good time to dream, so I'll like put my earbuds in and go for a run and just let my mind wander. And I feel like it's kind of the equivalent to letting kids out for a recess and then letting them burn off all their energy. And so when they come back in, they can actually sit still. I think that was definitely me as a child, and I think that's still me. So I have to go like burn off some energy in the morning. And then I have created quite the structure for myself in order to make sure that I'm accomplishing things that I need to get done for the day, because what I have found is it's a little bit like a time warp, because there is no real transition cues, right? So it's, for all I know, it's 10 in the morning and I look at the clock and it's 7 p.m. It just, there's not like a lot of that. So I just try to get my day mapped out on some random whiteboard with lots of different colors of markers. It's very professional.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, that must be, the creative stuff that I need to get out of the way in the morning. And then I work mostly on my food brands during the day and still getting those onto shelves and all of the behind the scenes paperwork that's necessary for that. And then usually wrap that stuff up by 5-ish. And then it's podcasts and research and writing for all of the other projects that I've been working on. And that takes me to probably about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And then I pretty much go right from work to bed.
So no Netflix for you then, by the sound of it?
No Netflix for me.
Wow, sounds exhausting. Now, would you say, because I talk about the importance of a morning ritual in my book as well, would you say that you do those things, or there's a particular activity that you would do religiously every single day to call it a ritual, or it's just you just try and keep a consistency? Would you call what one thing, if there's anything that you have to do every single morning to make sure you set yourself up for a win during the day?
I have to move. I definitely, ideally it's outside. It just depends on, what email I wake up to or what text I wake up to, and if I have the luxury of getting out. But movement and sun are, I would say, essential to like my morning, and I have to get those in somehow.
I agree with the sun. I mean, we don't necessarily have to dive into the physiological benefits of the sun. There's a lot, I know. I like to meditate, and I combine meditating with, I know that in the morning, if I sit on the balcony, that the sun will be, on my face. I like to have sun on my face for that 15 minutes of meditation. So I'm kind of like doing two things at once. And it has me do my meditation in the morning, knowing that I'm going to combine it with the sun. In LA, obviously, you can do that. I don't know if I was still living in the UK, if I could rely on the sun to be out that often. But thank you for sharing that. What a day that you have, and I'm not surprised at all how much you have going on every single day. But that's why you're a walking, breathing example of, even during these times, especially during these times, just movement, occupying your mind. You are a person that has a thirst for knowledge and growing yourself and developing yourself, and that's why you're just non-stop researching and learning. And I think it's inspiring for everybody listening and watching right now what is possible if you put your mind to it. So let's get into why we're talking today about the immune system. Like I said, in everyday life it's important. Right now, we're getting fed a lot of different information. So could you speak into, I'll just let you talk because you do it so well, and you can express to me and everybody listening and watching your passion behind making sure that we are taking care of our immune system.
Yeah, sure. So, well, first of all, our bodies are just incredible in general. So, when you break it down to the individual systems, it gets really fun and very nerdy. But it's been very interesting to me to see what mainstream media talks about when it's discussing, like what are the highlights, what are the things that show up if you just scroll quickly through like the news part of the phone. And it's very rare that I see anything that's truly helpful, as far as, or at least that I would feel as helpful as it could be maybe for people in general on maintaining health. And when I say that, it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, And the one area that I haven't seen a lot of great discussion is around the immune system. And it's like, build your immunity doing this, and, you know, boost your immune system doing that. And primarily it focuses on food. Like I've seen a lot of articles about fruits and things. And while that's not necessarily wrong, it's just not enough. I don't feel like it's enough information for people to actually be able to go, oh, that makes sense. It's a little bit of a sacrifice for me to do that. But now that I understand why, you know, I'm on board. And I think that that's the most important. That's, to me, one of the biggest honors of being in a role like this, is to be able to help people understand the why more than just the you know, the how. And you know, the immune system actually, I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to the immune system, but there's, you know, two primary like subcategories. Like if you think of it like a sports team, you have like two different lineups, right? And there's reasons for, you know, there's specific goals for each team, and like what it is that they do and different roles that they play, and when they come in and when they exit, and how they communicate with each other. And
sorry, now, so I'm clear. Do you mean like two lineups on the same team, or they're not opposing lineups? So it's like a football team, right? You've got special teams come on, then you've got defense. Okay, thank you. Just making sure.
So you have your innate immune system, which is a subsystem of the immune system as a whole. You have the innate, and the innate is your first responder. That's the one that's actually going to go and do like a more generalized attack of whatever the pathogen is. It's something that's like when you're first maybe exposed to the pathogen, or your body has its first interaction, your innate immune system is actually going to be first line of defense. If it's able to evade that first line of defense, and then eventually it will get to the second line of defense, which is like more like, let's say, like special ops. These are the people who not only do they fight, but they also interrogate. So they learn all about it. They watch its behavior. They question it, and then they take all this information, and it's like they hold a press conference for the body, like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is how it acts. This is what it does. And then it creates antibodies and it launches more specialized attacks on whatever pathogen your body is fighting. So when we talk about supporting the immune system, you need to support, you know, in a more generalized way, like these two systems and like the different cells that operate under each one. So we'll get into some of the different ways that you can support your immune system.
Yes, please.
But I have heard people say something, or they'll use the language of create immunity or build immunity, and the way that actually happens by being exposed to viruses. We're able to build our immunity. It's like when a baby is born, they are like immune neutral. They don't really have any immunity. They have, other than what they've been exposed to from their mother, or, you know, their first couple interactions with the environment. So what you can do is you can support the immune system. So you can, just like you would, if we'll go back to the sports analogy, if you were actually coaching your team and preparing them for a game, you would be doing some conditioning with them. You would be making sure that they're eating right. You make sure that they are recovering properly. And then that way, when it's game time, like you have a dream team. Like that's like the ideal situation, is that you have this like dream team immune system that has been built to be its best, perform its best, and not really be able to have to worry about too many contenders. And I think that's where we're at right now with this particular situation, is we have this pretty crazy contender, and our immune systems, we're really seeing how poorly we've treated our immune systems up to this point. Our team has not been conditioned well.
I mean, I'm all over the sporting analogy.
Imagining it. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Yes, I mean, if more things out there in the world in science could be related to sport, I'd be way more knowledgeable than I am.
And there's so many things that we actually could do in order to really improve our odds and improve our chances of, you know, even if we were to bump into somebody who has the virus, we should be able to walk away and not be worried. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Right? I don't really worry, because I know that my team is conditioned well. I know that, like, I have spent the time and I have invested the energy into building up the best team possible. And I think that by not speaking about it in that way, in a way that is less fear-based and more hope-based, that we're actually doing a disservice to people, because it's also feeding the panic. You don't really understand what the immune system is supposed to be doing and how to actually support that and how to like really get it to an optimal level. Then I think it makes perfect sense why people would be afraid, because they don't know that they are a walking miracle in general. They already have all the power on their side. They're already winners. So reminding them of that, and then making sure that they feel confident in that, and then giving them the tools to, to further build on that. That's the step that I think is missing.
I love what you're saying there, because if we use the sporting analogy, again, sorry non-sports people that are listening and watching, sorry, not sorry, but this helps me, because you're right. There's fear around, I guess, leaving our homes and being out in public. And it's, as you said, it's the confidence. If you're a sporting team and you're not prepared, you haven't done the work, you haven't been exposed to challenges and different conditions, you don't want to go and play against that opposition that might beat you up. So you'd rather stay in the locker rooms than go out. But if you know you've done the work and you know your plays and you're on top of, you have knowledge about your own immune systems and you've been doing the right thing, then we'd be less fearful about going out in public and doing our grocery runs and just being around people in general. We can still adhere to the recommendations, but just be less fearful about being out in the world. And not just while we're in the height of this pandemic and we're in lockdown, but when things start to go back and the lockdown gets lifted, there is still going to be some residual fear. So again, to your point, it's so important that we are knowledgeable about our own immune system and doing whatever it takes to stay at optimal health.
Yeah. And that's really something, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I mention often to clients and people that I've been working with, is that this being at home part is actually the easy part. It's the next move. It's like the next phase of this whole thing, where everything from, the fallout of the stress that we've been experiencing, people feel like they're stressed now. And I've heard them say, oh, well, I'll feel so much better once I'm back to work or once things are normal again. And the reality is, we really need to put in place things now to prepare ourselves for that transition, because that's another stage of adaptation that our body's going to really take a hit for from a stress standpoint. But yeah, going forward, I mean, in order to really do this well, we really have to equip people with confidence to be able to still interact as humans and to still be able to feel like they can be in community. And that lack of community, the lack of confidence, having the panic and the stress is doing the exact opposite for our immune system that we need it to do. So we're actually perpetuating a vicious cycle by staying in fear, by limiting our access to people, because there's health benefits of being in a community. There's health benefits of human touch. There's so many things we're missing right now that, thank goodness, eventually we will all have back, but not until we dispel the fear.
But what is something for people out there that might not really have a good grasp on their immune system and their overall health, something they can do right now to start to put them on the right path to confidence in their own immune system?
What do you got?
Well, I'm going to start with the easiest, not the easiest, but I think one of the most important, which is supporting the microbiota. And not just gut health, not just the bacteria of the gut, but on the skin, because that is part of our microbiome. We have a microbiome on our skin, and all of this sanitization, all of the hand sanitizer that we've been using. I mean, I know even for myself, whenever I go to the store, if I don't have gloves or something, I'll just grab one of those Purell wipes and I'll literally hold it in my hand. So that way, if I touch something, it's, I'm mostly trying to be respectful of the people around me, but I know that I'm just very aware of how that's affecting not just my current immune system's function, because there's a lot of information that's shared between our microbiome and our immune system. And in order for us to be able to actually maintain a balance, we have to have diversity in our microbiome and our microbiota. So some ways to do that is there's some really great products out there that you can actually get. Their soaps. I'm looking over there because I have like a dish soap that's actually has probiotics in it. They have dish soap, hand soap, lotions. It's a whole line of soaps that I'll have to
Right.
I'll
Okay.
have to share with you. Sorry, I can't see it right from here, but
No,
it's like called like microcosmic something.
Got it.
And so I use that as my soaps at home. You can also actually get like probiotic capsules and I should mention I'm a huge believer in symbiotics, so prebiotic and probiotic, so like spore based prebiotics and probiotics, and they're usually, and when it's combined it's called symbiotic. It's both things happening at once, which is ideal because then you're getting the probiotics plus you're feeding them with the prebiotics and you're getting them from spores, so from the dirt. That's the ideal way to do it. You can actually open up those capsules, put it in some coconut oil, and actually put it back on your skin afterwards. So it just helps to actually re-diversify your microbiota on your skin as well as in your gut. And if we don't do that now, then we're actually setting ourselves up to be immunocompromised in the future, because every time we put hand sanitizer on, we're actually compromising our immune system. We're changing the diversity of our microbiome when we do that. I don't think many people know that about the skin. So something to mention and something relatively easy to adjust. And as far as the gut is concerned, modbiotics are wonderful. I'll just mention, I do have a PDF, like a guide to immune support strategies that people can download, and it actually has pretty much all the stuff that I'm covering on it, with details as far as even products that they can go look at, so they don't have to try to absorb all this information and then do all their own research. Like it's all answered for you.
Right there, right? That's okay. First thing you do is go and download this PDF, and that'll give you some ideas that you can digest. But this is great. Okay, so people have done that. You're looking at the skin. We're looking at gut health now. What else is there, if anything, that people should be focusing on right now?
Getting vitamin D. So ideally from the sun, but even if you can't, if somebody were to be listening to this and they don't have access to the sun, or there's not much sun where they are, you can supplement as well, just vitamin D3. We need that because the body actually makes peptides that are antimicrobial peptides that are specifically for that first line of defense. They are pretty heavy players, and they're like the MVPs of the first line of defense. We'll keep using the analogy.
Yeah.
And so vitamin, you have to have vitamin D available to the body in order for those to be made. And then also the supporting your thymus gland, which is something else that I haven't really seen many people talk about, which I find kind of interesting because it's a relatively important gland. It's the gland that your T cells mature in this gland. And as we age, your thymus gland actually shrinks and becomes less effective. And this is one of the main reasons why scientists believe that older people are more immunocompromised, because they have less T cells because their thymus gland is functioning at a lower level. And so there's a lot of research and science around that right now, and it has been for a while. So supporting your thymus gland is super helpful to just being able to make sure that you have the T cells, and T cells actually are players in both lines of defense. They're an innate and the adaptive parts of the immune system. So you really need those T cells. And movement, exercise, but different for reasons than people have been talking about. So to me, the reason why I need to move, and move specifically, I don't necessarily think it has to be lifting weights. I mean, that has its own benefits, but movement, like jumping movement, so running, jumping jacks, plyometrics, things in which you're having some kind of impact because of your lymphatic system. When you don't move, your lymph doesn't move. Your lymph is the fluid that's moving, that's allowing the white blood cells to actually carry the bacteria and infections and waste out of your body. So if you're not moving it, it's just stagnant. That's why you get like swollen lymph nodes, is because there's no movement. So you need to, especially now while you're home all day long, be try to at least every hour do some jumping jacks or something just to keep the lymph moving.
That's, I mean, again, my girlfriend, she'll just be like, I told you so, because I make fun of her for jumping on her little trampoline every morning. You know, it's the lymphatic system. I'm like, and then this is, she'll be listening to this just looking at, all right, yes, Kristen, I know, it's good for the lymphatic, and I'll do it as well. So thank you for, again, backing her up on that. But that's great to know. I mean, all of that, but what that also has done is just made me realize what a terrible job I'm doing of supporting my immune system. So I'll be downloading that PDF, and that'll put me on the path to immune greatness, and obviously to help us thrive through this period and any period in life and live a longer life. Who doesn't want to do that? Really, who doesn't want to do that? People are just need the information and the motivation to do it. So hopefully what we're going through right now is the perfect time for us to reflect inward and take stock of how well we're looking after ourselves. So I really appreciate that. Well, Wendi, you know we could go on all day about this stuff, but the intention of this podcast is to just give some bite-sized grabs for people to take away and apply in their life, and so they can thrive to the best of their abilities. So on behalf of everyone listening and watching, thank you so much for giving us your time and your knowledge, your wealth of knowledge. And I'm pretty sure we're going to do this again. So we'll start with the immune health, and then we'll see what comes up during this series. So thank you again, Wendi.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it, folks. Wendi Michelle. I told you it would be amazing. And hopefully you're all going out right now to download her PDF so you can start looking after yourselves properly. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you again for joining us. And don't forget to download your copy of the Sur-thrival Guide ebook, and there'll be notes on Wendi Michelle's good stuff as well. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next episode.